Welcome, everyone, to Brown Bag Lit. We're so happy to see you here. I am Shasta Grant, co-founder of Brown Bag Lit, along with Chloe Elena Miller. We host classes, events, and are home to Lunch Break Writers, a writing accountability group that meets on Wednesdays at noon Eastern Time. You can find more information about our programming on our website. Today, we are super excited to launch our third annual Fake AWP series with poet Sara R. Burnett. If you haven't signed up for the next 3 events yet, we'd love to have you. The link for that will be in the chat. Throughout this session, you're welcome to put questions into the chat or you can raise your hand. While Sarah's talking, we ask that you stay muted. We will be recording this event, but we are going to pause the recording during any participant sharing so that you can feel free to share. Welcome, Sarah.
Well, thank you so much, Shasta and Chloe, for hosting me. And I'm very sorry, Chloe, about your voice. Um, and I'm excited to be here to kick off the fake AWP. Um, and I'm excited to talk to you about resilience. And I just kind of want to get right into it. My bio you have, and I'll share you links to my website and things that are relevant at the very end. But if it's all right with you, I think I'd just like to dive right into resilience. So I'm going to share my screen for a bit. Give me a minute. Okay, can everyone see that? I'm going to be using this Google Doc, which Chloe I know is going to put in the chat in case it's easier for you to access it there. But I really wanted to start, I want to use this less than an hour to spend some time together, not only thinking about resilience, reading some resilience poetry, and also, but finding some solidarity together, because I think that that is a huge part of what resilience is. So as much as we can, doing that over a Zoom, I'd like to do that. So to that aim, I have a couple opening prompts for you, and you can choose one or both if you want. The first one reads, in spite of living in a time of blank, I write because blank. Or in spite of living in a time of blank, we write because blank. And then I just swap out the verb there. In spite of living in a time of blank, I read because, or we read because. So if you could just take probably about 5 minutes, maybe you'll get one done, maybe you get two. If you feel like putting it in your answers in the chat, and if you haven't already put in your name and location of where you're from, please go ahead and feel free to do that too. If you don't want to share, also okay. So I'm going to give you a couple minutes to write that. Gonna give you about 1 more minute, and feel free, if you would like, to start writing your responses in the chat, if you would like. Okay, I'm gonna just go ahead and start reading. If you still want to keep putting it in the chat, feel free. Okay, so I wrote, in spite of living in a time of great uncertainty, I write to remember what I know to be true. At first, I thought I was writing for me, but then I'm writing for our child to make the world seem safer, more welcoming, and untangle some of these constant mysteries, disasters, threats. In spite of living in a time of uncertainty, I write because I have to. In spite of living in a time of destruction, I write because words are fire. They build, they heal, they inspire. In spite of living in a time of erasure, I write because I believe my voice can contribute to keeping history alive and making truth prevail. In spite of living in a time of war, I write because I must and I don't know what else to do. In spite of living in a time of despair, I write because it helps me stay sane. In spite of living in a time of uncertainty, I read because I have to. Feel free to keep on sharing as it comes to you. So I'm going to pause here. I'm going to try to find my screen share again. I'm in trouble going back. Hold on a second. Let me stop share and then go back, if you don't mind. Hold on. Okay. So I'd like to talk a little bit about resilience today. And this is the Merriam-Webster dictionary. But basically, we know that resilience is the capability of a strained body to recover its size and shape after deformation, especially caused by compressive stress. So something that bounces back after it's been pressed or pushed in some way. It comes from the Latin verb resiliere, which means to jump back, to literally kind of recoil yourself. Now that's the definition, but I think Jane Hirschfield might say it a little differently. And I would love it if does someone feel like reading this poem? You can unmute yourself if you like, or I can read it.
Yes, I'd be happy to.
Thank you, Laurel.
Optimism by Jane Hirschfield. More and more, I have come to admire resilience. Not the simple resistance of a pillow whose foam returns over and over to the same shape, but the sinuous tenacity of a tree, finding the light newly blocked on one side. It turns in another. A blind intelligence, true. But out of such persistence arose turtles, rivers, mitochondria, figs, all this resinous, unretractable earth.
Thank you. Thank you so much for reading that. So here, Jane Hirschfield, or the poet, is not speaking about resilience as simply pressing something down and then it returns to shape again. But she's talking about a certain kind of creativity that a tree would need to have, a certain kind of strength and determination that a tree would need to have to bend its way to find the light. It takes a certain kind of faith, and I don't mean faith in the religious sense, but in that blind intelligence sense that she speaks of. And it takes a certain kind of determination too. So creativity, strength, determination, but also things working together. Turtles, rivers, mitochondria, figs, all this together. So with that in mind, I'm going to start a little story and why I'm here talking about resilience and possibly what brought you here too. Right after the election, probably within a few days after the election, I started a newsletter. I'm not on social media very much anymore, except for Blue Sky. I started this newsletter that I had to people who I'd already connected with, some writers, some not, called Poems to Carry You. And I've been continuing to send out these poems every 2 weeks or so. But there are poems that I thought that people might need to hear in this moment, because many of us are feeling this way. I think even with the opening prompt, many people wrote about living in a time of uncertainty, in a time of war, in a time of fear. All of that's, we can all resonate with that. And what happened was I sent it out. I sent a newsletter, just kind of like a bunch of poems out and a little bit of what I was thinking. And a lot of people responded back to me, saying, I really needed that. I didn't know I need that. A lot of people who weren't poets or readers of poetry would say, I really needed that. That was really necessary. Thank you so much. And it struck a chord, and I kept doing it. So I've been doing that pretty constantly. And again, I'll give you the link if you'd like it. It's free. And what I've noticed is I have a whole collection of what I call resilient poems. And what I've noticed is certain traits about them. Now, certainly this list is not exhaustive, but there's a few things that stand out. Resilient poems tend to speak of gratitude, but gratitude in spite of not feeling very grateful sometimes, in spite of despair, in spite of all things that might point to opposite, there is a gratitude. There's also a strength or a declaration of strength. I'm not sure if it's always performative or is genuinely there, but it feels like it's strength. And it's strength in spite of despair, in spite of weakness, in spite of feeling powerless. Sometimes there's a vision of something, of a future that's beyond this moment, or something that person might be imagining. It's not necessarily the reality that is. And oftentimes there's a connection that the speaker of the poem finds within himself or herself, a connection to other people, a connection to the natural world around them. And I think what's important that I've realized about resilient poems is that they involve practice of deep truth telling. They don't exist in, the binaries, the either ors. They're holding both and the light and dark, the joy and sorrow, the loss and abundance together. So I'd like to take a few minutes and read two resilient poems today before we start to actually try to write, maybe inspired by them. I'll end with a few prompts, but these poems in particular speak to the strength and the gratitude aspects. I'm really, just for this purposes of just having a 1-hour session, I'm really going to focus on gratitude and strength. This first poem, perhaps many of you have heard of it, Try to Praise the Mutilated World by Adam Zadrejewski. Would anyone care to read it? It's okay, I can read it. Okay.
I can read it, or do you want to read it?
No, I'd Appreciate it if you would do that.
Okay. Try to praise the mutilated world. Remember June's long days and wild strawberries, drops of rosé wine, the nettles that methodically overgrow the abandoned homesteads of exiles. You must praise the mutilated world. You watch the stylish yachts and ships. One of them had a long trip ahead of it, while salty oblivion awaited others. You've seen the refugees going nowhere. You've heard the executioners sing joyfully. You should praise the mutilated world. Remember the moments when we were together in a white room and the curtain fluttered. Return in thought to the concert where music flared. You gathered acorns in the park in autumn, and leaves eddied over the earth's scars. Praise the mutilated world and the gray feather a thrush lost, and the gentle light that strays and vanishes and returns.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you so much for reading.
You bet.
I'm going to speak a little bit about the poem, but if you have some more thoughts about it or something jives with you and a light bulb goes off and you want to drop it in the chat, feel free. So one of the reasons why I think this poem resonates with many people is that it's very honest. I think it starts out so honest. Try to praise. Here you have someone who, it's almost like the poet is talking to himself and forcing a certain kind of gratitude. This is not an easy gratitude. It's not praise the mutilated world. It's try to praise the mutilated world. So it's very honest. Obviously, mutilated and world, I mean, mutilated is such a powerful adjective to describe the world. It's not praise the beautiful world either. And the poet immediately goes back to remember, has to go to someplace else to remember June's long days and wild strawberries, drops of rosé wine. Well, that sounds nice. So far, pretty light. The nettles that methodically overgrow the abandoned homesteads of exiles. Okay, so we're getting a little bit darker here, and also expanding the worldview a bit too. You must praise the mutilated world. Not try to praise, now it's you must. It's a little bit more emphatic, so it becomes more forceful. It starts to build on itself. You watch the stylish yachts and ships, again, sort of light, but then one of them had a long trip ahead of it while salty oblivion awaited others. Here we have the both and here. Why some are safe and why some are not. You've seen the refugees going nowhere. You've heard the executioners sing joyfully. Well, now it's really come together. Executioners and joyfully, right? All brought together by that verb sing. I mean, executioners singing. I mean, you don't even need the joyfully. You should praise the mutilated world. So we've gone from try to, you must, you should. You should praise the mutilated world. I mean, now this poet is really trying to draw up some sort of praise. Remember the moments, again, we're going back to the past. Remember the moments when we were together in a white room and the curtain fluttered. And this is the point for me in the poem where it really turns. Because this line here is not specific or non-specific. I mean, there's a white room, but the curtain fluttered, but it's not as clear as executioners sing joyfully. So there's nothing sort of happening here, but it's this white room. So I think about it as being white room, like a capaciousness there, and the curtain fluttering, almost like this veil between the two worlds. The one that the speaker is inhabiting in memory and the one that's also there. I mean, this is just how I read it. Return in thought to the concert where music flared. You gathered acorns in the park in autumn and leaves eddied over the earth's scars. Okay, we started in June and now we're in autumn here. And we've also, again, talking about another very specific memory here. Praise the mutilated world. All right, we've gone from try to, you must, you should, praise. That's where we ended up. That's not where we started, but that's where we end up. Praise the mutilated world. And the gray feather, a thrush lost. I love those S sounds. And the gentle light that strays and vanishes and returns. You know, this is, again, this is not a typical gratitude poem. This is one that's of hard-earned gratitude, of this type of stubborn praise, of a praise that's been earned. And there's a wisdom that comes at the end from relying on memory here, when so much of the present world, the mutilated world, is one of contrast. I'm going to pause just to check the chat to see if anyone has anything else, or if you have any comments you'd like to add. If you want to unmute yourself and speak to it, we can pause for a few moments here if you'd like. Yes, yeah, go ahead, Laura.
Yeah, something that appeals to me about it is it seems to bridge the old country and the new country. You know, refugees coming here, refugees going somewhere else. And there's an openness with that, not just what the writer might experience, but how we experience as well. And for me, the White Room feels like a way station between here and the world beyond, as well as other rooms and other worlds. And then, you know, because he goes from that right into the music, that's so interesting too. Because it's not just a white room with emptiness and with no sound, there's the curtain fluttering, but then right then we go into music flaring up. It's really, that's really a stunning moment in the poem for me.
It is. And you're drawing my attention also to something I skipped, which is when we were together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is who's the we there?
Mm-hmm. The community.
Yeah, could very well be, yeah.
Mm.
Anyone else want anything else to say about this poem? Okay, well, if it comes to you, I hope that you'll share it in the chat. I'm going to move on to another poem that I wanted to share, which is called Sorrow Is Not My Name by Ross Gay. It says, after Gwendolyn Brooks. I can include, the poem that he's referencing there is called To the Young Who Want to Die by Gwendolyn Brooks, which we can put for you in the chat. I can do that too. But you don't really need to actually know that poem to understand and appreciate this poem. Would anyone like to read it?
I could read.
Thank you.
Sorrow is not my name. No matter the pull toward brink, no matter the florid, deep sleep awaits, there is a time for everything. Look, just this morning, a vulture nodded his red, grizzled head at me, and I looked at him, admiring the sickle of his beak. Then the wind kicked up, and after arranging that good suit of feathers, he up and took off, just like that. And to boot, there are on this planet, oh, so sorry, I was reading off the screen.
Right, here you go.
Sorry about that. And to boot, there are on this planet alone something like 2 million naturally occurring sweet things, some with names so generous as to kick the steel from my knees. Agave, persimmon, stickball, the purple okra I bought for $2 at the market. Think of that. The long night, the skeleton in the mirror, the man behind me on the bus taking notes. Yeah, But look, my niece is running through a field calling my name. My neighbor sings like an angel, and at the end of my block is a basketball court. I remember my color's green. I'm spring.
Thank you so much for reading. No matter how many times I read that poem, it always gets me. So much to say about this poem. No matter the pull, I'll start at the beginning. No matter the pull toward brink. It's interesting if we look at the poem. It's that could be, and that is an end stop line, except there's a no there. So there's an end stop, but also this compulsion to keep on going, this determination to keep on going. I mean, I feel like even in the first line, there's an enactment towards resilience, a gesture towards it. No matter the pull toward brink, period. No. No matter the florid, deep sleep awaits. Well, deep sleep, of course, what one thinks of, well, not just having a nice night of sleep, but death, right? There is a time for everything. Look, just this morning a vulture nodded his red grizzled head at me. Well, obviously, we have this image of the vulture, and then a few lines down, you have the sickle. So you got the vulture and the sickle, and obviously that's conjuring up some sort of image of a grim reaper there. And I just want to say, it's not that, look, I saw this morning a vulture that nodded his head at me. No, look, just this morning a vulture nodded. The natural world is very active and interacting with the speaker. So there's also that sort of connection that we talked about with the natural world. So look, just this morning, the vulture nodded his red grizzled head at me. But then the wind kicked up, and then after arranging that good suit of feathers, that good suit of feathers really sticks with me because it's a very particular way of describing what a vulture looks like. It's praiseworthy. That good suit of feathers. There's praise for that vulture there. And it's also sort of a conversational way to describe it too. He up and took off just like that, and to boot. So there's this, obviously we're pausing again. There's more stoppage, but there's also a conversational aspect to it there, just like that, and to boot. So you feel it's a very intimate space here that we're inhabiting with the poet. And I love this next line break. There are on this planet alone something like 2 million. That's just a lovely line break. Not just 2 things, 2 million naturally occurring things, sweet things. So now we're moving more into praise, right? You've got the specter of death kind of hanging over him, and no matter the florid deep sleep that awaits, at the same time, there's 2 million naturally occurring sweet things in the world. And he goes on. And you can almost get the sense of pleasure that perhaps the poet Roscoe was having when he was writing it, when he was putting down these names like agave, persimmon, stickball, the purple okra. Those are really particular to that poet. If you know anything about Roscoe, then you know that he's also has an orchard, works on a community orchard. So he gardens and farms a lot. And he's also an athlete. So you might know that. So what's particular to you, of course, what would you praise is what I'm hoping it stirs up. I want to go back just a minute to kick the steel from my knees, because that is one of my favorite phrases in this poem, to kick the steel from my knees. I don't know if this is true or not, I will preface, but steel from my knees, it makes me think of obviously someone who's had some sort of knee replacement or some sort of knee surgery or support. So it's to kick the steel from my knees, but also to be like weak in the knees, right? It's that strength and weakness together, because he does feel kind of weak in the knees because he's so in love with the world, but also it's the steel. of the knees that probably needs to be there for support. And I'm just going to go on to about $2 at the market. Think of that. Again, that conversational aspect. The long night, the skeleton in the mirror, the man behind me on the bus. Yeah. Again, very conversational. But look, here's that turn. My niece is running through a field calling my name. My neighbor sings like an angel, and at the end of my block is a basketball court. Well, these are obviously the things that would stick out to him as joy, as joyful things. I remember my color's green. I'm spring. I remember my color's green. I'm spring. It's that turn to, it's that strength, that inner strength from all this praise, from all this praise, all this stubborn gratitude, the stubborn praise that he's earned through this poem. He remembers that strength. His color's green. I'm green. I keep going. I keep growing out of something horrible. And to me, that's why this poem is a resilient poem. We're right in spring right now. We're seeing the resilience of nature around us, that things are growing in spite of climate change, in spite of disasters politically. Somehow things keep going and growing. So does anyone have any comments or anything else they'd like to say about this poem?
Well, I do.
Yeah, please.
Sarah. So I like how he early on brings up the sickle of his beak, the vulture. The sickle is in the reaper. I mean, it stands for death, right? Because it's the cutting edge. But later we have it echoed in stickball, which is something that's playful, whether it's a child or an adult, something that's been around for a long time also. It's pretty standard. And I like how he manages to turn that into a kind of innocence, and almost like we're saved by a game in a way. And he heads it into this different direction. And it's just based on the sound, really. It's really lovely.
It is, I've read this poem so many times, and sickle and stickball. I did not see that. So thank you for showing me that.
Sure, of course.
But that's right. Sickle, I said sickle and stickball. That's right. And it's drawn by the sounds.
Mm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Really great note. Anyone else?
Yeah, purple okra.
Mm.
I like purple.
What is it about purple okra?
Well, okra's orange. I mean, okra's green usually. I mean, that's why he put purple, because it can be purple. So it's a very Southern thing, it ornaments the poem for me.
Yeah.
About him.
It's something unusual, because most people think of okra as green. So something unusual and beautiful.
Yeah. Right.
I like this part. I mean, I think about the admiring and the sickle. I'm going back to the sickle part, but just the fact that he's admiring the sickle of his beak. So yes, it might be this image of death and the Grim Reaper, but it's also, wow, that's pretty amazing. It's still this moment of awe that's there too.
Well, yeah, it's pretty hard to stare at a vulture, really,
I
I have. I mean, right? That's interesting, Most of us turn away when they look at, because you look at them, they're not particularly, one does not normally think of them as something you want to stare at.
Right. Or one that you would praise with the good suit of feathers.
Right.
So maybe that's a way in. I'm just thinking I'm going to give prompts at the end, but maybe that's a way in to praise something that you wouldn't ordinarily praise.
Well, also they clean stuff up, they eat all this garbage.
Yes.
We don't have to pick it up.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, if you think of anything else, oh, what did I say? Yeah, the love those 3 short lines at the end. I do too. I remember my color is green. I'm spring. There's something about that, like rhythmically. I remember my color's green. I'm spring. Like he's like, it's almost like the speaker has found himself again. That inner strength, that courage. But it's also kind of has this mantra-esque feeling. It's like a heartbeat. Yes, yes, Emily. Yeah. I remember my color's green. I'm spring. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. Well, we could probably go on and on about this poem. I'd like to give you guys some time to write, which is great. We're right on time. I have a few prompts that I've come up with. Although it seems like we've already talked about some as we were talking about the poems. So you use this time as you wish. I'll go ahead and read them out loud. The first one is the try to praise prompt, and you just choose one. Make a list on the left side of your paper of some of the beautiful things you've seen or experienced in recent days, be they grand or small. On the right side, make a list of some of the horrors or losses you've known on a personal or larger scale. And then try to braid the 2 lists together with a phrase such as remember, return to, in spite of, despite. That's kind of going off of the Adam Zagajewski poem about lingering on the details and then remember and return to. Let your intuition guide you. The find your strength poem, find your strength prompt. All right, Ross Gay reminds us that the simplest things are not only worthy of our praise, they help us to claim our strength when it falters in the midst of uncertainty, doubt, or fear. Recalling those things gives us the resilience to keep going, to keep growing, in spite of or because of an obstacle in our path. They kick the steel from our knees. What are some of the fearful things that keep you from delight these days? Write against that urge, honoring the reverence for the simple things you witness in your day. And if it helps, it often does for me, write as if in conversation with yourself or a friend, even if you never give it to them. When you're stuck, I often take a word just to get the rhythm out, like more and more I admire, try to, no matter the pull toward brink, no matter the try to praise, try to, more and more I admire. And then if you're really, really stuck, sometimes I just copy the poem out longhand, and just the motion of moving your hand on the paper jog something. At the end, you don't have to share. We certainly would like a little bit of time for sharing if that's something that people want. So I'll stop at about 5 minutes of. So you can feel free to turn your screens off if you don't want to be viewed while you're writing. I get that. I think I'll put on a little bit of music in the background, and if that bothers you, like a rainy jazz, something like that. And if that bothers you, you just you can mute me. And then just turn your volume up, okay? Does anyone not have any questions? Okay. And I'll see you at 8:55. Probably have about a minute left if you want to finish your thought. And then as you're ready, if you want to turn on your screen so I know that you're ready. If you want to add anything into the chat, you certainly could. Would anyone like to speak to any of the poems that you, any of the prompts that you tried, either about process or about some of the things that you were writing or not?
Yeah, I would like to. I thought I'd pick the one about the first one, something that a nice memory versus something that wasn't so pleasant. And it seemed a little hard at first, but then once I got started, it made a lot of sense, and I actually want to work with it some more. I liked it a lot.
Great. Well, that's really lovely to hear. Yeah, thank you. I see some people are sharing them in the chat too, which is totally fine. Oh, these, yeah. So feel free to take a look in the chat and read. Yeah, I'm just reading this, so it's lovely. That's really lovely, Nikki. Very lovely thought, almost like a gratitude list, Mike. Yeah, I do also love the contrast there too. Well, I definitely hope that you have found it helpful. I have a few other things to offer you, if you will. I have the Google Doc is shared. Everyone has access, I hope. So when we leave here tonight, if you want to go back to that prompt, you certainly can. I also have a link at the bottom for resilience poems, what I call resilience poems. These are some of the poems that I've been collecting. And I have a list of them here, which you can also are granted access to. I checked. And so there are ones that you can go back to either just to lift up nourish your soul and your spirit right now, or also to use as writing or prompts and to share them. I also have a newsletter here, Poems to Carry You. There's the, it's just a MailChimp. I just send about 2 to 5 poems every 2 weeks or so that really kind of speak to the moment, or what I'm thinking and musing about, that hopefully spread some hope and resilience. Feel free to opt out and share out at any time. And those are just things that I do. And if you want to contact me, my website's there and you can email me too. So, but I'm always very cognizant of time and people's time. And I'm very grateful that you all are here and that we had this opportunity to have this community of together, and in such difficult and trying times. In spite of it, we have writing, which is, obviously something that carries us all through, but I also deeply believe it carries others. So spread it along. If you are a poet or you're a writer, it's really up to, this is a bit of my soapbox moment. I'm sorry, I didn't expect this, but it's a bit on us to do the thing that we're good at. So whether that's spreading a poem or writing a poem or however, whatever your medium is, And that's it. So I don't know if you have any other questions, you want to say anything. I'm happy to hang around for a little bit.